Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Screnius the Wide? I thought not. It's not a story 16:9 aspect ratios would tell you. It's a monitor legend. Darth Screnius was a dark OLED of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the organic diodes to emit light. He had such a knowledge of OLED that he could even implement tandem RGB technology to keep the screen he cared about from dying. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. He became so powerful, the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power, which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his viewers everything he knew. Then they bought the screen from certified LG retailers. Ironic. He could save others from burn-in, but not himself.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Is this really necessary? That's probably your first thought when you hear about LG's new 39-inch 5k2k OLED. It packs a punch, it takes a lot to run, it's expensive. So a lot of you might be thinking, is this even necessary? What is it good for? Today I'm going to try to walk you through under what circumstances this would be a good pick for you, as well as some of the benefits of the 5k2k resolution. Most screens today come in a 16:9 aspect ratio. This is plenty good for games and pretty immersive. It's also, I would say, probably the best aspect ratio for viewing most content. However, they do lack in a couple of categories. For one, there's the limit of size. At 32 inches, 4K is pretty much the gold standard when it comes to text viewability as well as sharpness. You can get a 1440p 32-inch monitor, but that will sacrifice a lot of text readability in order to get to the screen size. It's still good enough for gaming, but I would recommend 27 inches at that resolution. 4K has a sharp 138 pixels per inches, and it provides a lot of screen space, and it's very immersive. However, it doesn't quite reach your peripheral vision, and it also can kind of get annoying if you use it a lot for productivity use, because the vertical space tends to be wasted. Take this monitor, for example. It's also from LG. If I'm viewing a text document, it might tend to split just down the middle and then come right here comfortably. And then this is where maybe the browser bar would hide or something. Even if I do make it full screen, there's really no getting away from the vertical real estate wasting. It's not quite tall enough that I could put 4 screens here comfortably, especially if it's something like an app or a browser tab that wants its own settings bar or UI or something other than the main text or main content itself. So what you end up is with maybe 2 or 3 sections, depending on how you cut it, of actual usable space. And there's a lot of other space that's just kind of sitting there. And while it's a great size for something like gaming and for watching content, for productivity, it really feels like there's a bit too much monitor for what you're actually able to use, but you would still like more usable space. There are other aspect ratios and other configurations that try to handle this in a different way. If we try 1440p at 27 inches, for example, I'll get that monitor out. Here we see we have quite a bit of less text space. You could again split this into maybe 2 max applications or browser tabs. You really don't have space for anything else there. This would still be plenty immersive for gaming, especially if you're viewing it up close, and for watching content. But if you want to put more things on the screen, it really isn't ideal. And also, since you're more likely to be sitting closer to the screen in order to combat that loss of PPI or loss of screen real estate, it is less immersive. So that's where widescreen comes in, or ultra-wide. There are a couple of different ultra-wide configurations. There are really massive ones, There's the far more common 34-inch ultra-wide monitors, and there's this 5k2k 21 by 9 monitor. In the 21 by 9 aspect ratio, I do believe that 5k2k is the superior configuration. 5k2k, it has, this screen in particular has 143 ppi. So that's even higher than 4K, 32 inches at 138. And it gives you extra screen real estate. There's about 33% more pixels on a screen like this, and about 8 extra inches of screen measuring horizontally. Vertically, it's almost the same size. It's a little bit shorter, and that probably helps with the higher PPI. So it fills a gap between a 32-inch 4K and a 34-inch 1440p monitor perfectly. What this looks like practically is more immersiveness in gaming, more tabs that can be fit during productivity, and a really cool cinema experience if you're viewing it through the right provider. Here's kind of demonstrating what I mean. Here I have 4 tabs right here. They have a perfect width, and I think they about make up for the loss of height that you get by putting these 4 tabs together. There's so many different configurations that you can make here. Here I have Steam opened up on one side. This is almost the size of an entire 1440p monitor, and I believe it's about the same amount of pixels. And then on this side, I'm free to do what I want. See, I could open up, for instance, how long to beat here, and then go to sites to check the prices of what games are, and I can compare that. I could doom scroll like crazy, 4 tabs of YouTube open at once. I don't know who would ever use it like this. Say I want to modify Dead Space here. I want to put a mod in, but I don't know how. I could have YouTube open here. I could have one set of files open here, and then I could have another set of files open here. That would make mods super easy, super painless. Once I have it set up, I wouldn't really have to be switching between tabs. They're all just there. There's so many productivity options that are open to you with a 21 by 9 monitor. And it would even be great for more serious things like modifying text or whatever that you have to come up with. It's tandem OLED, meaning it'll take longer, at least theoretically, to burn in because the light emitting layer has extra reinforcement, hence the tandem element. Meaning that this is, at least on paper, safer use for something like productivity than other OLED models, especially QD OLED models that might have burn in quicker for static elements, especially white elements, over longer periods of time. That also means this gets crazy bright. It is True Black 500 rated, and it is VESA certified display HDR. Very good HDR content. I think the blacks get pretty deep. This wallpaper doesn't quite show it perfectly. I would say compared to other OLED screens I have, it's not the darkest. Like, it doesn't get the darkest, it doesn't have the best contrast, but it still blows any other type of screen that I've ever used out of the water. Good color, I would say even better color than my previous OLEDs, and bright. Wow, I don't have the technical certification, I'll pull that up for you, but it gets super bright. I don't use it on full settings ever, even during daytime with light streaming into my room. It's just, it would be too bright. So this would be great if you have it just in an office maybe, or someplace where the window is always going to be open. And combined with the beautiful matte coating. It's got to be one of the best matte coatings that I've seen out there. I know a lot of people are disappointed that it was matte instead of glossy, but I would say the matte is extremely unobtrusive, more so than others. Some mattes have a grainy look to them, or a kind of washed out look. It still is there a little bit. It's not as glossy OLEDs, but not as matte as other mattes either. It might be like a semi-matte or something. Very clear, very crisp, and it does a great job at blocking out lights. It doesn't matter how dark the scene gets. I don't think I've seen background light bleed onto it at all. I've hardly seen, you know, the other lights in my room show up on it. Even right now, I have my room light on, and I don't see anything. Even if I turn it completely black and turn it completely off, there's hardly any light showing whatsoever. So it's a great coating, and I think that kind of outweighs the downsides of it not being glossy, because I know that it would displease the gaming crowd, for instance, but for productivity use or something like viewing movies, I do think it's better, especially as a curved, especially since it's a curved display. Less light will be kind of reflecting back between the panels. So I do like its coating, I do like its screen, and I think it's perfect dimensions for most desk setups. It's not too big, it's not really, again, obtrusive. It does have height adjustment, super easy to adjust the height. You can adjust the sides too. And they've also had software sides improvements compared to previous models, such as it's more responsive, far more responsive OSD. It has some more options. It has this AI upscaling mode, and that's good for certain purposes. I think it's better for consoles and content that doesn't support the full like native output. On PC, it's off and on. The scene optimization, I think it does a decent job. Sometimes it can get annoying when you don't expect it to transition between different modes. What I really like about it, though, is the dual mode has been improved over previous versions. I had a dual mode monitor, also from LG, and no problem with the dual mode itself. It was just annoying to get to. You'd have to navigate an entire menu, and then you'd have to press on to the dual mode, and just a bunch more steps. And when you combine that with you're getting lower text quality and whatever else, it sometimes just felt like it was more harm than it was worth. For this one, it's just a button. Simply, there's a button on the bottom of the screen. I press it. There we go. And once again, the dual mode is extremely good. It gets up to 330 hertz this way. It's normally 165. And text clarity is fine. Not as crisp, but actually not awful. And I don't know for sure if it's working with the AI upscaler with that, but it does seem to look a little bit better than the previous dual mode monitor, though that also might be because since it's widescreen, it can fit elements over a wider period, so it is taking out more pixels that way. Let's see, speakers. I'll try playing the speakers for you later. Something a lot of you guys will be wondering about is how does it game? The answer is very, very well. Here I have the Dead Space remake booted up here. I have, let's see, the native resolution. I'm using Optiscaler to get FSR4 and RDNA3. I have that set to quality. It got wrong settings here. Right now it's on medium. On medium it's running about 120 FPS. I can set that to high though, and at high I'm still getting about 100 FPS. Looks extremely good. This is a bit of a better demonstration of its contrast ability, and yeah, if I just try it out for a bit. What you're hearing is it's, whoa, okay, what is going on? Okay. This is a bad moment to pick up, wasn't it? Oh, no. Excuse me? Oh, no. Okay, what you're hearing is the system speakers. It was a bad moment to pick up. I did not realize it would be this chaotic. But hopefully you're seeing some of its gaming potential. What I really love about it is that you get to see almost your entire peripheral vision. Uh, I would say it's not really like a game changer, like it's not going to make you better at the game, but it feels incredibly natural to just have almost, no, pretty much your entire field of vision that's still in focus. Whereas even on a 32-inch monitor, in order to recreate that same experience, you kind of have to be right up to the screen. Even here I can back up though, and everything that's in focus is viewable. Did it just crash? Okay. It just crashed. Okay, that is not a monitor problem. That is a dead space problem. That was a crash. Okay. Was it? All of Steam crashed. What is going on? Okay. When we talk about immersiveness in games, sometimes it can come across as, being lost in the game. I don't really think that it's always just a game, right? But as for immersiveness, I think if you're playing on lower end hardware, that consciousness will be the frame stutters or the graphic settings being too blurry or whatever, something that detracts you from the experience that the developers intended. Different screen size do a better or worse job at just delivering you into the game and allowing you to experience it as it was meant to be experienced. At 27 inches, if you have a good 27-inch 1440p monitor, it is a very good experience. It is a very good gaming experience, but you're always conscious that you're like viewing a monitor. And at 32 inches, it gets better, and you have a better job at just being in the game. But at this level, there's just a game. I don't really even think about it of just viewing a monitor anymore. It's really just more of like, I have a PC and then light is coming into my brain, so that's a nice experience to have. Necessary? Not necessarily, but it is very nice to have. It takes about 33% more performance to run than 4K at 5k2k, same settings. So you might have to turn settings down, but I don't know. I'll be doing more benchmarks later. I have a 9070 XT and a 7900 XTX in different builds that I'll be testing. But so far in the games that I've tested on both of them, there hasn't really been one that's like a game breaker. You will have to be using upscaling, but I think just about everyone does that nowadays. And most PC gamers play a mix of older games and newer games as well. So most of your games will be able to hit near the top resolution with just, reasonable settings anyways, right? But I'll be doing more benchmarks so you can see exactly what I mean. Still though, if you have a card or a setup that is difficult to run in 4K, this is going to be even worse. So unless you're going all in on productivity, for gaming, I would not recommend this for you. The dual mode might work fine, but that will depend on your stomach for it. If you already have, say, a 1080p or 1440p monitor that has about the same pixels per inch, then it's just going to be an all-around upgrade. But if you're used to something a little crisper, then you might have to wait until an upgrade. Something that I really like about this monitor in particular is if we compare it to 1440p monitors, the black bars, when they do have them, are almost unnoticeable. Overcooked 2. I've been trying to get a widescreen fix working. It hasn't been working. But still, I'm not really like heartbroken about it. Let's see if I can turn this down. Yeah. Because the black bars are not bad, like in any stretch of the imagination. On a 34-inch 1440p, it always feels like you're missing out when something doesn't support widescreen, because that's a good chunk of your monitor, and your monitor already is not that big, right? You're already sacrificing vertical height for horizontal height. So when you take away that horizontal height, what are you doing, man? Yeah, you're playing on something smaller than 27 inches, right? And you're doing that at a pixels per inch that's already in ideal. With here though, when it doesn't support the full 5k2k, it just defaults to 4k. And especially if you're already used to having a 4k monitor in your setup, the black bars just go away. You don't even notice them, right? So it's not bad at all, right? You could do this, you could play exactly how you did on a 4K monitor, no issues, right? And they do have, I believe, dual modes in order to emulate a 4K display. I don't really know what the benefits of that would be other than, rather than just playing it in 4K. I don't know. I might test that out. But not bad at all. So even when I can't use this in its full glorious resolution, or there may come a time down the line where games are too demanding and unoptimized to allow me to play in my desired resolution, it'll still be a very fun and decent experience. Really no worse than just buying a regular 4K 32-inch OLED. So that's great. Even so, I found that widescreen 21:9 resolution do have very good support in the PC gaming landscape, at least. On console, there is no native support. The best you can do is stretch 4K content, and that comes with its own downsides. But on PC, a lot of games either support it natively or they have widescreen fixes widely available that they range in ease from simply typing in something in a config file to downloading a mod or a fix. But still, you can just go on something like PC Gaming Wiki in order to find whether it will be supported, the game that you're looking at, and or how to get the fix that you're desiring for. Other types of support, though, have been surprisingly good. When I was originally looking at this monitor, I did not expect it to work well with Apple TV at all. I was expecting that I'd have to have two sets of black bars, the regular set on the sides, and then the black bars on the top and the bottom, as you would usually see in a 16:9 display. No. It does not work like that at all. In fact, it turns out most movies are shot in 21:9 aspect ratio anyways. So Apple TV, smart Apple, defaults to a 21:9 aspect ratio, and then they play the 4K, quote unquote, 4K films, which are shot in 21:9 anyway, so you actually get a full screen experience. So you see here, the apps, the UI, everything, they just function perfectly in 21:9, 5k2k. And even though the output signal isn't technically 5k2k, it is 4k stretched, by default you're kind of getting 4k suppressed, and you're never going to get a full 4k image, right, on anything other than like YouTube or the videos you shoot yourself. There is a catch though, and that is that it's up to the developers themselves to implement this 21:9 experience correctly. I'm on Hulu right now, watching a still of Amazing World of Gumball, and you can see exactly as I told you, it's stretched out perfectly naturally as you would expect to find. So you even get a bigger image than you would 4K vertically, and you get the added bonus of a bigger image horizontally. So it's just all around a better experience than you would at 4K. Way bigger in both dimensions. However, if I go into something like HBO Max here, and I tried to watch the Batman, it stretches it out horizontally, but it keeps the vertical bars. Now this is extremely annoying, because now you get an even more stretched image horizontally, but you lack any of that vertical benefit. I guess the upside is that you would have the same thickness of black bars in a regular 16:9 4K screen, but really, developers, like, please implement this correctly. Like, if you have a dark room, it's not the end of the world, but it's unfortunate. I think you do miss out on a little bit of crispness when they miss out on the vertical height and they just stretch it horizontally. It is a little distorted that way. Disney Plus is the same way. The entire app works perfectly in 21 by 9, but the second that you boot into a movie, same as HBO Max, they get the width correctly, but the height, they still have black bars. Disney's black bars are less egregious than HBO Max. I don't know why that is, but they're still there. Apple TV content, however, works perfectly fine. They stretch it out the right way, and I believe that if you were sick of this and you wanted to have the proper 16 by 9 experience, you can just go over to settings, I believe, and turn it into a 4K display, but you'll also get the regular 16 by 9 black bar downsides plus the horizontal downsides that I was afraid about. And if that doesn't work, this being a dual mode monitor, like I said earlier, you can emulate a 4K display, and that's probably why they let that mode in there, now that I think about it. So is this the perfect screen? No, but it gets pretty close to it. It is 165 Hz, and it can get up to 330 with dual mode. But most 4K monitors of this price point, even price points below it, do get up to 240 Hz. So is that the end of the world? Not really. You get around a 30% decrease in performance anyways. So going down to 165 Hz, even if you do have an RTX 4090, you're going to be hard pressed, except in old or easy to run games, to get to 165 Hz. However, if you're the type of person who likes to use frame generation in order to max out your monitor at all times, then maybe a different model would be good for you. I do hope that they improve this in the future, but even then, it's not a deal breaker in any significant sense. Also, its tandem OLED screen is beautiful. It's very bright. I love it, but it is not the perfect OLED screen. I think I would like for them to increase the contrast a bit more. Maybe that's due to its matte coating, that it doesn't quite get as black as some OLEDs that I've seen, but it still is a very excellent screen, and I would say, at least compared to my previous 32-inch OLED, that this probably has better and more vibrant colors, and that has deeper blacks. So shop around. I mean, if rich colors and deep blacks are the most important thing to you, QD OLED is going to be more important than WOLED or tandem OLED any day of the week, no matter what coating it is. And lastly, its size. I think it's fantastic. It's the reason I bought it. But for some people, it might simply be too big on their desk, and you could be disappointed that it's only taking up, 60% of my desk instead of 100%. If you're chasing size and that's the most important thing, that could be disappointing. But the upside is that this is the practical limit in terms of pixels per inch, this 39-inch configuration. If you want to go to like a 45-inch configuration, you cannot have the same pixels per inch unless you have some crazy alien resolution that gets into like 6K or something, I don't know. So is the price fair? Is the price fair for what you're getting? Previous 32-inch 4K OLEDs costed anywhere around $1,100 to $1,300. Once in a while there were cheaper models, and there were of course sales, but this was about the new price, $1,100 to $1,300. This screen is about 33% more screen, so if we just multiply those costs by 33%, we get around $1,463 to $1,729. So that's about, and this is about $1,800 brand new. And that's about on the money what this costs at $1,800 brand new. But on top of that, we get the fact that this is dual mode, and some previous OLEDs in that price range, especially in the earlier generation, weren't dual mode, and the fact that this is a brand new tandem OLED technology. So this will at least theoretically last longer, and it will get brighter. Plus, it is True Black 500 and display HDR, but I feel like they were that anyway. All things considered, this is definitely a fair price for this product. Is it an ideal price? No, but the ideal price for anything would be like $1 or $0. But it is a fair price considering what it all has and what similar items have sold for historically. Though discounts are inevitable, the previous models got discounts. Every LG monitor gets discounts. So if you have time to wait, you could wait until the next model, which has 240 hertz or something, I don't know for sure, I'm just guessing, comes out, and then snag up this one on a discount. Yeah, if you still want a dual mode high-end OLED, and you're fine with its hertz, you can even find better models or whatever else there is to offer, but you can get in around the $800 range nowadays. And there's some models that I've seen go down to $600, but that's probably the lower limit of where you're going to find, unless you get, you know, an open box steal, or you buy some other form of used or some other site. The good news is, in 2026, OLED monitors are getting cheap. There's still more than IPS and VA, but I remember when the original Xbox Series X came out in 2020, I was looking for a 4K monitor. You couldn't find a 4K 60 hertz monitor for less than $350. Nowadays, you can get an OLED, I believe it is 1440p, but it goes up to like 280 hertz, and that's also $350. I would say that's a better deal. So yeah, OLED is getting cheap. Right around the corner, or maybe you can find it now if you look diligently enough. You can get a 4K 32-inch OLED, or whatever you want, for 40. You could definitely get them for $4,500 or less, but for $450, around that range, you can get almost any standard configuration of OLED, give or take. So how do you know whether this product is for you? This 5k2k 39-inch LG monitor makes a strong contender for being an endgame monitor, so to speak. Many generations in, many upgrades in, this has everything you could need, almost everything you could need, almost forever, and everything you would need for a very, very long time. It runs surprisingly well in most games, and when it does run well, it does so better, I think, from a gameplay experience than a 32-inch 4K monitor. It has very strong cinema performance, but you need to pick your poison. On YouTube, you'll always have the black bars on either side. In certain apps, depending on what you choose, where you get your TV provider from, you'll get different variations of black bars or stretched content, what have you, right? But often you'll see the same thing on a 4K 16:9 monitor, so as I said, pick your poison. For me, I would say the deciding factors for whether you should get this monitor comes down to your desk size, the distance you'll be sitting from your monitor, your GPU, and productivity use. Desk size is obvious. If you take my desk, for example, I physically cannot fit a 45-inch monitor. Even with the curve, probably I could, but it would pretty much just be the monitor, and then I'd have no more desk space. So if you have a desk that might have more stuff on it or might be more enclosed than mine, 45-inch is absolutely not a factor, and maybe even this 39-inch one won't be a factor for you. But if you have a massive desk, then that might make a 45-inch monitor that much more compelling. Same for distance. I sit exactly the same distance I do from this monitor than I do to a 32-inch 4K monitor, and from that distance it looks great. But if I really want to use it like a TV and, you know, be reclining back as far as possible, the 45-inch might be the pick. Lastly, GPU. I would say anything greater, a 9070 XT or greater is all you need, at least for the next few years. You know, you might need to upgrade down the line, but if you're willing to do upscaling, and I think you should be, I don't really even think that you need frame generation unless you're trying to saturate the full refresh rate capable of this monitor. If you're okay with 80 to 100 to even 120 hertz, that's fine in newer AAA games. But in lighter games, in older games, in indie games, you're going to be doing perfectly fine, maybe even with a 5070 or what have you. If you do not use your home monitor or whatever monitor you're looking to replace for productivity at all, then I think the 21:9 might be a little decadent. That doesn't mean don't get it, but you might not make full use of the aspect ratio, and you might not fully appreciate it if you're coming from a 32-inch 4K monitor. You can still enjoy it, and there still are many benefits, and I probably would still call it a very decent upgrade. But for the performance cost and for the price, I would weigh my options carefully, especially if you don't already have a 4K 32-inch monitor and you're looking to upgrade to something that might make it an easier upgrade on your wallet now and on your GPU in the future. But if you do use it a lot for productivity, and you do find yourself opening up a lot of tabs very frequently, and you can't fit them, this is a perfect size. I mean, it has all the text readability you need, it has all the space you need, right? And it does that without blowing up your desk. So if you fit within those criteria of desk size, distance, GPU, and productivity use, I highly recommend this monitor. It's fantastic, and I do think it's very worth the price. But if you don't, for whatever reason, I would look for other criteria, but I would still keep this in mind. Come back later for 5k2k benchmarks on a 7900 XTX, a 9070 XT, and a 5080 mobile. Thank you for watching this review, and see you next time.